What's up, guys? I decided to do a video that's slightly different. I know that, like with a lot of my recent videos, I've talked about nothing but DVDs, and I'm still kind of doing that, but this is just more of a wish list type of thing of things that I want to be on physical media, whether it's like DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. So, mainly what I'm referring to, and you probably have guessed by what I'm wearing and what's behind me, most of it, but basically, what I want is some kaiju / tokusatsu related media that's like that I want on DVD and Blu-ray that here in the United States we still have yet to get. Recently I've been like watching a huge barrage marathon of different Ultraman shows, so I figured I should go through a list of like different kaiju related tokusatsu media that I would really like to have on physical media. So, of course, lots of the stuff I'm referring to would be basically stuff that's more related towards stuff in Japan. Most of it is, not all of it, but it's still some shows and movies that we need to get here in the United States. Now, whether it's due to copyright or distribution rights or whoever, can't exactly own certain shows or movies or whatever here in the United States, it's kind of unfair because there's a lot of good shows and movies that are out there all in other countries and we have yet to get them here. So I'm just going to go through my own personal list of stuff that I would like to have. So this is just my own kaiju / tokusatsu wish list that I would like to have on physical media. So for the first one that I want to talk about, it's a bit more of kind of obscure-ish, but not exactly. And this was kind of a show that came out a couple weeks before Ultraman's, the original Ultraman show's broadcast release in Japan. So this is a show called The Space Giants. Now, I got the chance to watch this show through a bootleg DVD that I bought many years ago, and it's not in great quality, but it works just fine. There does exist like English dubbing for it, but with the bootleg, some episodes are like in Japanese audio, and there was even like one episode I saw where it had nothing but Japanese audio, and there's not even any subtitles for it, unfortunately. Most of it's just really grainy, low-quality English dubbing you hear in the audio. But basically the show is about this Ambassador Magma, I think that's what his name is. Basically, he just defends his family that's living on Earth, and basically, defends the planet from a recurring villain that brings out all these giant monsters that have to attack him. The basic, superhero fights giant monster each week scenario type of show. You'll see, that theme is like really common in a lot of these Japanese tokusatsu kaiju shows, especially with the Ultraman series. Now the show, I feel like would really need a proper release here in the United States. I mean, if Johnny Sokko and his giant robot and all the other crappy shows like Iron King and Super Robot Red Baron can get an official release here in the US on a DVD, I don't see why this show shouldn't. Now, I should also mention that I feel like that with this particular show, it should also have like kind of a bonus miniseries included with it. So the reason why I bring that up is because this suit in particular right here of this monster was reused in another thing called Aegon the Atomic Dragon. So first it was in Space Giants, and then its own 4-episode series called Aegon the Atomic Dragon, or Atomic Monster, whatever you want to call it. It only lasted about 4 episodes on TV, and it was all in black and white. The only reason why it was basically like, canceled or just like, stopped, making any more episodes from it was just because there were way too many similarities to Godzilla. So I believe, now if I looked it up correctly, or if I'm remembering correctly, basically Toho kind of stepped in to be like, okay, this is like way too much from our copyrighted character Godzilla, you guys need to stop doing this. So that's pretty much why there exist only 4 episodes, and the same thing, same story with Space Giants. I got to watch it on a bootleg DVD. It's fine, but it's not too great, but I still think it would be cool to include the series in the Space Giants just for that reason, that, it's the exact same monster suit that they used in the show, so it would only make sense. Now, the next one I feel like is a no-brainer to be released here in the United States. It's been over 50 years since it came out, so it just makes sense. It's Toho's answer to Ultraman, Zone Fighter. Now, of course, this is exactly similar to Ultraman, just slightly different. Not as many episodes. There's about like 26, I believe. But the main takeaway from it is that Godzilla is officially in it. Yes, Godzilla is actually in there, and he actually fights along with Zone Fighter. And not only that, a couple of Godzilla's enemies are in the show itself, like Gigan and King Ghidorah. Now, of course, just because we can't have nice things, it doesn't exist for us here in the United States, and it's a real shame. We have like literally just about every Godzilla movie here in the United States on DVD or even Blu-ray, and we still don't have this show. We have like the entire library of like the early Ultraman shows, and we don't have Zone Fighter? Come on. That would have been perfect for his 50th anniversary last year, but no. Didn't decide to do that. But we really need to get the show on DVD or Blu-ray or, whatever. Even if it's streaming, I guess I'll take it. I'm not really a big streaming kind of person, but I'll take it, I guess. Anyway, next is Spectre-Man. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this because you already know the drill of the whole giant superhero fighting monsters and stuff. But this was another show that I really wanted to get because it kind of interested me, but of course I was only able to watch it on a bootleg DVD. What do you expect? Now, again, it's just one of those things of like, a giant robot defending itself, defending the Earth from giant monsters, from these, Dr. Gory, I believe his name is, a giant ape, or an ape alien basically sending all sorts of different monsters to defeat Spectre-Man. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need to know, really. I'm not going to drone you on about some of the other shows that I did put on my list, like Red Man, Ultra Fight, which are basically Super Riot Productions' Ultraman low-budget series. But I think that those would still be kind of cool to be on DVD or something. Like, even though they're probably like really crappy and obviously very low budget and not really that great, it would still be cool to have it regardless. The other shows would be like, Jumborg Ace, Mirror Man, or Megaro Man, any of those other shows that Super Riot produced, or any other shows that are basically similar to that. I won't drone you on too much of it because they basically follow the exact same formula. Monster of the Week, giant, superhero defending Earth, yada yada yada. You get the idea. But the next one I want to talk about on my list is Toei's Japanese Spider-Man series. Now, this was in like the late 70s, I believe, where Toei, who's made quite a handful of different kaiju or tokusatsu related shows, but they're also responsible for making Power Rangers, aka Super Sentai. But they managed to get the rights to Spider-Man to make their own TV series, which is, I think, much better than the one that was going on in America. But anyway, of course, I don't think that this is an official DVD that I happen to own, but it exists on like a bootleg-ish DVD, but it seems fine, I guess. But basically the whole story is that this guy gets his powers from an old man on the planet Spider, and yeah, that's literally how he gets to turn into Spider-Man, pretty much. And then like by the end of each episode, he transforms into a giant robot, which an interesting fact about it is that like the suit of that robot was stolen halfway in production of the series, so they literally had to reuse the exact same shots over and over, which is funny. Now, of course, this doesn't exist on like any streaming service at the moment that I'm aware of, and there does exist, from what I recently discovered, a documentary series of the making of the Japanese Spider-Man on Disney Plus or something, so I don't know. But other than that, I think that's just something that I feel like would make sense to have properly released here in the United States, because it's a Marvel property and it's of like toku action and all that stuff. I think it'd be kind of cool for us fans. Now we're gonna slightly change from TV shows to movies. Now what I'm going to be talking about is mostly Toho related products. So the first one would be Gorath. Now Gorath is one of those kind of obscure sci-fi movies that Toho would release, kind of like The H-Man or Battle in Outer Space or even The Mysterians. But this one in particular involves like a giant meteorite basically heading towards Earth, and basically the people of Earth have got to stop it. But basically, this movie is somewhat well known for having the walrus kaiju Maguma, who would later be reused in an episode of Ultra Q. But anyway, the funny thing is that like this movie was actually released here in the United States theatrically with like an English dubbing, but the funny thing is that Maguma was nowhere to be seen, so I'm assuming he was just edited out, like cut out the film. I don't know why. But regardless of that, I feel like that this is a movie that definitely needs to be here in the United States, both the Japanese and English version regardless. Of course, I have a bootleg DVD of it, and it's in pretty good quality. It has both the Japanese and English version, so that's pretty cool. The next one I want to talk about is another slightly obscure non-Godzilla related Kaiju Toho movie, Daigoro vs. Goliath. Now, it's nothing like Space Amoeba or Varan or Mothra or Rodan or even War of the Gargantuas. This is like more of a movie in the 70s that was geared towards kids, of course. Now, I'm kind of like upset that a movie like this hasn't been released here in the US, because like, it's not great, but it's okay, I guess. It's really goofy and kind of interesting, at least, but, it's still like, kaiju rubber-suited monsters, guys fighting each other. I feel like it would make sense to put this movie out here in the United States. So, yeah, just get onto it. Again, Japan has it on DVD, so why can't we? Whatever. Anyway, the next one I want to talk about is The Three Treasures. I don't know a whole lot about this, other than it's probably just one of those generic samurai action-adventure movies from the late 50s, but the reason why I bring it up is mainly because it introduces Orochi, the eight-headed dragon. Now, it looks pretty interesting and pretty intimidating for back in the 50s, but I guess the only reason why I bring it up is mainly because Orochi would get like a rebooted reappearance in Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon in 1994, I believe, and that actually did exist on a legitimate DVD that existed here in the United States, and I do own it. Not a huge fan of the movie, but the production value looks pretty impressive for like all the 8 heads. But The Three Treasures I feel like is something that would just be a why not release it here in the United States, Next would be Godzilla 1985. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, 1985. That's already on DVD and Blu-ray. Not exactly. So, yes, it was released here in the United States, like an Americanized version of Godzilla 1984, also known as The Return of Godzilla. Now, of course, there were VHSs of it, and Kraken Releasing got to release the movie on DVD and Blu-ray, but it's of the Japanese version, with a brand new English dubbing over it. This does not have 1985 that has Raymond Burr reprising his role as Steve Martin in the first Godzilla movie, in the United States. So I feel like this is something that really needs a proper re-release. Of course, I only have a pretty much good enough high-quality DVD bootleg of 1985, and I do happen to have a legitimate version of it on VHS, but I just feel like that it's not good enough, because I need to have both the Japanese version and the original American release version on a DVD, just like of how, Classic Media was able to release it with, like, their classic Godzilla movies. So it's like, why not do that? Next would be, I guess this is something that doesn't necessarily need to be on DVD, but Japan did get it on DVD, so it just makes sense. Of course, this series was released on the official Godzilla YouTube channel, and I just feel like that it would make sense to kind of release it on DVD. Godzilla Island. Now, this is mainly probably a show that's obviously more towards kids, of course, but this is basically a show about where people use vinyl Godzilla toys as puppets to basically have them interact with each other, basically acting as if they were the actual real things. Good enough, I guess. I mean, whatever. It seems pretty interesting, and I've wanted to see it for quite a long time, even though we didn't have access to it at first. But thanks to the official Godzilla YouTube channel, they were able to release it here in the United States with an English subtitle. So that's pretty cool. But I feel like it would be even better if it was actually, in the United States here on a physical DVD or even a Blu-ray. Next would be a few Ultraman-related shows, so we're going to go back to TV shows. So first would be actually it's more of a movie, but like an animated anime movie that was in cooperation with Hanna-Barbera, which is Ultraman The Adventure Begins, also known in Japan as just Ultraman USA. Now, of course, there does not exist an official version of it on Blu-ray or DVD, even though you could get it on, Blu-ray, from the Japanese version, which actually I own. And it does include, the original Japanese version and the English American release version, which is pretty cool. But there does exist a VHS of it here in the United States, but we don't have a legitimate release for it. So that's up to Mill Creek to decide on that. Of course, they don't have the whole access to every library of the Ultra series that they were given by Super Productions. So it might be some time way far in the future until we do get it, if we ever do. I don't know. Again, with the whole thing that you have to take away from this is that, like, with certain distribution rights and people who, like, collab with Superia or any other property, you'll have to accept the fact that they'll probably never release certain things. Just like the next couple shows. Ultraman Towards the Future and Ultraman the Ultimate Hero, also known as Ultraman Great and Ultraman Powered. Now, Ultraman Towards the Future was an Australian corporation that was produced by Superia Studios, who basically made Ultraman. And this was like them trying to make like a new reboot into the franchise, and from what I hear, it's a good show. I mean, it had a toy line and a video game that came out of it, and it was released here in the United States, and it had a few VHSs. Of course, we don't have a proper re-release of it here in the United States. We don't, which sucks. Again, you could just fork over some money of the Japanese release versions and get it that way. But it just doesn't feel right, you know? Same thing with Ultraman, you know, the Ultimate Hero. It's just not the same. And it's kind of unfair. Plus, it's not also fair of how Ultraman, the Ultimate Hero, also known as Ultraman Powered, was actually made in the United States, but it was never released in the United States. It was only released in Australia. That's not fair. We never got to see it. All the more reason to put it on a Blu-ray or DVD. Come on. Again, Mill Creek. You need to do something about it. If you can't, boo-hoo. Next would be Heisei Ultra 7. Now this is like a continuation of the original Ultra 7 series, disregarding any other Ultra series that came after that. But this is like a show I hear quite a lot about, and I hear some good positive things about it. So obviously it's like, I think a bit shorter in runtime of like regular Ultra Band episodes. I don't know exactly, but from what I hear it's really good. And it seems really good too. It's obviously like a bit of a higher budget, of course, but it still looks really cool. This is something I would like to see on Blu-ray or DVD here in the United States. Next one would be Ultra Q Dark Fantasy. Now, of course, we don't have it, just like some of the other Ultra shows, and I think the reason why is because, and I can't remember exactly, but from what I remember looking up, it says something to the effect of like certain songs that are copyrighted that we don't have that for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, that's the other thing that really kills it. Whether it's like, you know, copyrighted music in certain shows or whatever, you know, that's the main thing of like why certain shows haven't gotten to be, you know, available on physical media most of the times. Like, that's kind of the main reason why we don't have the Drew Carey Show on DVD, is because there's a lot of copyrighted shows on said show. And the funny thing is that even Alf, for the longest time, had pretty much the exact same issue, where they released the episodes but couldn't release certain parts because they, you know, mentioned or sung copyrighted songs. But eventually Shout Factory got to re-release that with the songs. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, regardless of that, we'll just move on. So next we're going to go back to movies. Now this one kind of involves more of a North Korean production movie that was made by Kim Jong-il. Ugh. But it's the movie Pulgasari. Now this is kind of like a reboot of like an old lost film named Bulgasari, which kind of involves a giant that basically eats metal. So the more metal he eats, the more giant he turns, and basically defends the people who, you know, basically protect him or like are part of the legend. Of course, there's a whole communist type of theme going on there. Now, obviously, it's one of those things where it's like, just don't think about the message, just think about the production quality, which is impressively okay. But other than that, I really don't care for the movie too much. It's just kind of boring for me. Of course, I got the opportunity to watch it from a bootleg DVD, but, you know, what can you do? Now, aside from that, there's like a whole backstory of it that's kind of messed up and sad and pretty scary, honestly, but I don't want to get into that. But later, one of the people that was involved with it, Kenpachiro Satsuma, who was the actor for Godzilla in the Heisei era, was, I guess, tricked into playing it. Like, Toho was kind of like tricked involved into it or something like that, which is why he was banned or something like that. I don't know the whole story of it. But anyway, one of the actual creators, or like people who were forced to help on that film that later escaped, actually kind of did a reboot, another reboot, like more Americanized, of course, called The Adventures of Galgameth, which is another thing I think that should be, you know, kind of re-released on a DVD or something here in the United States. Basically follows the exact same formula, a monster that kind of eats metal and grows larger to defend a kingdom, basically. So it's similar to Pulgasari, just slightly different, and when it was first released, the VHS of it didn't look all that appealing, to be honest. It was the artwork was way more geared towards kids, which is doesn't look too appealing, because can you look at something like this and look at that? It looks like it would blend in too well next to Timmy the Tooth on VHS. But anyway, so the next would be one I'm not too familiar with, and I didn't do a whole lot of research of it, but it's still kaiju related. It's Gehara, the dark and long hair monster. Now, it looks interesting and kind of scary, to be honest, but I still feel like that this is another movie that would be kind of cool to have here in the United States on a physical DVD. And next would be more of an interesting type of movie called Earth Defense Widow. Now, I'm sure you've probably, people who are familiar with this film might have seen some people, you know, review and talk about it. I'll try to give like a small synopsis of it, where basically like this defense team tries to fight against this giant monster, but then this woman kind of imagines taking off her clothes and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into it. It's really weird. I think it's just more of a parody type of thing on the whole kaiju genre, but it's kind of funny too, because some of the people involved in Ultra shows were in it and involved with it, but it's just like, what is even going on? But I think regardless of that, I still think it'd be kind of cool for it to be released here, on a physical DVD, whether it's like the original subtitles, or the original audio with English subtitles, or if it was in an English dub. I think it'd be kind of okay, right? Now, I'm gonna get into like some re-releases. Now, I've gotten over the whole, wish list of stuff that I want released here, but now I feel like there needs to be some proper re-releases. Now, first one I want to talk about is Varan the Unbelievable. Now, there does exist an official version of Varan on DVD, but it's only the Japanese version with English subtitles. The American release version didn't see a proper release of it on like DVD or anything like that. Of course, I own a physical bootleg DVD of it, and yeah, the American version makes the Japanese version of Varan even worse. They like changed the roar and everything. It's horrible. It's basically like if they did it similar to the American release version of Godzilla King of the Monsters, but it was like really horrible. Now, regardless of that, I still think it would make sense to have Varan, given a proper re-release, both of the Japanese and English version, all in one whole set. Or heck, maybe even if they like give the Japanese version, an English dub, I think that would be kind of cool. And the other re-releases I would like to see would be of like two different monster movies that are kind of connected: The X from Outer Space and Monster X Strikes Back. Now, the reason why they're connected is because it involves the monster Gilala. Now, the only official release of The X from Outer Space that exists is on this when Shachiku or whatever came to horror. It's basically like in a Criterion Collection movie collection, and that's the only legitimate way you can get it. And honestly, I think that's kind of dumb. I think that The X from Outer Space needs to have its own proper re-release by itself, or how I would like to see it in a double feature with its sequel that came out years later, Monster X Strikes Back: Attack the G8 Summit. Even if they do that, release it in a double feature, just please change the name, because The X from Outer Space and Monster X is way too bland and generic. Because there exists like way too many, monsters that have kind of the exact same thing, like Gamera vs. Monster X, and there's already an official Godzilla monster called Monster X from Godzilla Final Wars. So I would suggest just changing the titles or something. Make it more appealing, Now, next would be, and the last couple things that I want to talk about on my re-releases wish list would be the original Hanna-Barbera Godzilla series. Now, obviously, the first 3 volumes were already released, but unfortunately, they are out of print. They were, re-released digitally through the official Godzilla YouTube channel, but I think it would be cooler just to have it re-released that way. The out-of-print DVDs aren't as hard to find and expensive to get if you want to watch them physically. So I think it would be cool for them to basically be in a one big bundle kind of re-released, I think that would be very proper. I mean, I think I would like that, and I don't even know if there exists any other episodes or not. I don't know. Now, of course, the last thing I want to talk about is the original King Kong animated series from the 60s, or the King Kong show, whatever you want to call it. There did exist 2 volumes of it on DVD, but there were plans for a 3rd volume, but unfortunately, due to poor sales, that got canceled. So, the remaining episodes of said King Kong show are still in the air and still have yet to be released here in the United States, or on any physical form for that matter. So I still think that with the King Kong show, that needs to be given a proper release, so that way we physically have it and have all the episodes that are basically claimed lost. So yeah. So that's just this little short video I wanted to do about like some things I wanted on a wish list of my own. If there's any other like movies or shows that you guys wanted to see on, physical media, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, let me know. Because like there's probably some other movies that I'm not entirely aware of that are kaiju related, giant monster related, or even some shows that I'm not too aware of. Just let me know in the comments if you guys want to, see that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you want to have some suggestions for anything else that I would want to talk about, especially kaiju related, let me know. I'll see you guys next time.